Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 227 of the Audible Farm podcast. This episode is brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association believes the arts should be accessible to everyone, and so do we. So be sure to go to their website, www.fdfineartsassociation.org. Check out their community calendar. Check out what they're all about. They've got a lot of great stuff on their website. Make sure you follow them on social media too, and be sure to check out their podcast, FDT. There's 2 episodes out there. A third one's coming out soon, so be sure to check those out. This episode, I'm sitting down with Jared Benson. Jared Benson is a singer-songwriter. He moved to the Fort Dodge area maybe within the last 5-6 years, something like that. And he's been playing music around here for at least the last 3, 4, 5. So he's definitely been out and about in the area. He's been playing music with Salty View. He's been doing some solo shows, mostly solo shows now. And it's definitely worth checking him out. Like I said, in the podcast, I'd seen him before play live, but I've never seen him actually play a solo show. So that's next on my list. Got to check that out. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It's going to be a great one. It's episode 227 with Jared Benson.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Sitting down today, Jared Benson's here on the podcast. Never been on the podcast before.
Never have. Honestly, this is my first podcast ever. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Don't mess it up.
It's a first for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Were you playing music when I had the podcast before?
I was. So, I mean, I didn't move to this area till 2018.
Okay.
I'm originally from Fargo, North Dakota. Well, I say Fargo because no one knows where the hell Moorhead is. So I grew up in Moorhead, Minnesota. I say Fargo now just so people have like a general direction.
Yeah, I only know about that because I was up there like one time. So
hopefully it wasn't in like January or something like that.
No, it was in the summertime.
And that's the time to go.
Exactly.
Don't go October to May. It's just terrible.
it's either super cold or it's a mess, I'm assuming.
Exactly. Yeah, but I had met my wife now in college, and we both went to Briarcliff in Sioux City. She's from Barnum originally.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So we ended up in Fort Dodge. She got a job at the hospital in town. I got a teaching job right away. So I was a 5th grade teacher for 6 years.
Wow.
Kind of doing music on the side, and then now I work out at Iowa Central.
Oh, cool.
I'm a college and career transition counselor during the day, so I help kids like line up credits to where they want to go in college, and then I play a lot of music too. So,
bless you. I went back to school when I was like 27, and I sat down with a couple people that were, had positions similar to that, where it's like, oh, you're coming back to school. What do you want to do? Let's figure this out. Let's kind of get you on the right path or whatever. And it took, when I met the right one and they helped me out, I was like, yeah, all right. Yeah. I've figured this out. I'm no longer just dumping money into a hole I'm like, I'm just taking classes. I don't know what to do.
It's nice when it all lines up together.
It's perfect. Yeah.
To be honest, it's a little change of pace compared to teaching for me, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
Not saying teaching is a bad profession, but
yeah, I'm sure
there's a reason I'm not doing it too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's nice though. I mean, it takes a special kind of person to be a teacher,
it does.
And I mean, that even comes with like music and stuff, having a band or something like this is how the song goes. You have to have that mindset of being like, okay, here we go. Like not everyone's going to learn at the same way, at the same pace. You kind of already understand that.
It takes a certain amount of patience, time, just like music does too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Consistency is key. So I feel like I had those qualities already as a teacher, and I hope they're transitioning as a musician. So, I'm trying to push as many things through the works as I can. So
it's awesome. Yeah. So you said you're from Moorhead, Minnesota,
Minnesota,
which is basically Fargo, North Dakota.
They're the same town, just split by the river. Like one's North Dakota, one's Minnesota.
Yeah.
So
okay, cool. Yeah, there you go. All right.
Yeah.
I guess if I had really looked at it, I'm gonna have to pull it up on a map after this. Just to, I get so curious about maps and stuff. It's like, I need to see this on a map and see what it looks like. So, did you get interested in music up there, or where did you start playing music? Piano growing up, something? What do we got?
Yeah. I mean, I got my first guitar when I was probably in like 3rd grade. Never took a lesson on it. Just kind of figured it out by ear, watched some YouTube videos, things like that. But I always knew I could sing. So that was part of it. I was in choir and things like that growing up, and that kind of translated over. One of my best friends from high school, his name's Dan Brecky. That's kind of where I got my start playing live. He's a musician. He was a Nashville guy for 4 or 5 years. COVID brought him back to the Fargo area, but he's still on the road as a full-time musician.
Oh, cool.
Him and I are trying to link up and do some more stuff together. He's done a couple shows down here with me. I'm trying to go back up there and play. So yeah, he kind of got my start into like the live music side of things. I was always like an athlete growing up, like big sports guy, played baseball in college. So that was more like my life for however long. And then didn't really like pursue music really heavily until I got out of college. Okay. I always loved it. It was always something that I was very passionate about. I felt like I was talented about.
So you didn't play live until you were out of college?
No.
Oh, wow.
No, I did like a couple in college with my buddy Dan, but like as far as like my solo start, my first solo gig was December 2019 at Shiny Top in Fort Dodge.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And then timing of that, 3 months later, the whole world shut down.
Yep.
So I'm like, I finally got a couple gigs in the works, and then bam, didn't play again until 2021.
No, you don't have any gigs. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's crazy timing. So it's fun that you like had somebody there though, because I always feel like that's one of the best things for any musician is to like have maybe another musician there next to him to kind of bounce ideas off of. You learned this, how did that go? Oh, you played a show, where'd you play it? And how'd you book the show? It's just anything when you're first starting to kind of bounce ideas off of him. Was he like well established already playing before you kind of like started playing music with him? Or
yes, so he's kind of a big name in my area growing up, and then has continued that, and especially like when he went down to Nashville, and then now he's back, so he's got that rep behind him. So yeah, he's really been a mentor for me as far as like that side goes. We always are bouncing songwriting ideas off each other. He's like the first one I send a song to, and it's like, hey, does this sound good or does it sound like crap? Like just be honest with me. So yeah, he's been a big inspiration of mine as far as like the music world goes.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's awesome when somebody that has some influence in the community kind of gives back to the community that they're in, and you see a lot of that in Fort Dodge in the music community. And I'm not trying to say like other towns don't have it, but it seems to be isolated and in pockets. And in Fort Dodge, it's just kind of like, yeah, I'll share anything. Everybody thinks there's enough slices of pie to go around in Fort Dodge.
Fort Dodge is just a special place for music. Honestly, I feel like the community has embraced me tremendously. I'm not from there at all. I don't blame anybody for not knowing who the hell I am, and that's fine. But like, I feel like I've played a lot of gigs around the area now. I'm starting to work my name up. It's crazy how many people love live music, and then how many musicians just simply support each other. Like almost every gig I get somebody coming out watching, linking up with somebody that I'm just meeting, and then maybe doing a couple duo shows with people that I've never done before. So just playing live has brought so many connections around. But yeah, Fort Dodge is something special when it comes to just talent coming out of this small area and just music support.
Yeah, it's super wild. You can go play a show in Fort Dodge, and like there'll be another musician that like might have just gotten done playing a show somewhere else at your show, and it's like, what is this, the Sunset Strip in the 80s? What is this? This is wild, and it's super cool because I mean, the craziest part about it is I play in like a punk band down in Des Moines, and I've recalled in like at times I played shows down there, and it's I just post about the shows, and if you'll go, but it's kind of tough to ask people to drive an hour and a half or 2 hours to a show, so it's like whatever. But sometimes people will have a show like down there, like in Des Moines, and they'll pop over because it's not terribly far away, and it's like, yeah, I'll swing over and watch Peter's crazy punk band play some shows or whatever, and Three Finger Betty, everybody.
Three Finger Betty. I might have to catch a show.
Yeah, go check it out.
I'll be honest, I've never been to a punk show, so that would be an eye-opening experience for me, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, I feel like that's the weird thing is like it's not quite what it used to be, but we did play a show in a skate shop like last winter, and it was like just packed full of, it looked like you were watching like a DVD back in the day of like some punk bands. It's just like young kids there, like all partying. People have mohawks and stuff, and it's just like, this is wild. We're in a skate shop playing music. What is it? Are we Nirvana? What is this? Or whatever. So it was kind of cool to you have those throwback kind of shows like that every now and then. But punk music.
That's a whole different world than my simple country music, sometimes only 3 chords all night, things like that. But
Well, I mean, it works. I mean, it's not any different than punk music. It's like
No.
maybe 4 chords, but then they're power chords.
yeah,
so it's not
you
even-
just play them a lot faster.
yeah, exactly.
It's
and the best part
it's all
of-
relative.
Yeah, they're all the same shape when you're playing power chords, so it really doesn't matter. It's awesome. No, it's so punk's not your style, country's your style, quite obviously.
Yeah, I do enjoy a lot of music though. It's not like I'm strictly a country guy. Probably my favorite genre is like classic rock. That's what I grew up Southern rock more than anything. I grew up in the back of the truck with my dad, listening to Skinner, Eagles, Steve Miller Band, people like that. So I have like huge influence as far as that music side goes. And I feel like it's kind of translated in some of my original stuff. I like to say I'm more of like a crossover between that like classic rock country vibe, I would say. So,
Yeah, definitely. So like, is country just like something that you chose to listen to, or is it like I'm always interested in how people got into what types of music, because I can like pinpoint like people and like phases in my life that propelled me into listening to different things. So like, is it just, with your dad listening to country music, or was like the Southern rock kind of led you to country music?
I'd
eventually?
say the Southern rock really led me to country music, because I feel like country kind of went through like a really bad era there for a while, especially like when I was in high school. Like I graduated 2014.
Okay.
And it's just a lot of that like bro country came out and pop country, and I'm not really, some of that stuff's fine. I mean, I'll listen to it. It's just not like, and then you get into, I feel like it's kind of coming back with like the Cody Johnsons or like the Luke Combs now and things like that. They're kind of bringing that almost classic rock vibe with that traditional country just idea behind it too.
Yeah. I think about that with like, it's easy to look at country that way though too, where you're just like, during this time period it was these guys doing this thing, and during this time period it was those guys doing this thing, and during this time period it was like this, and eventually like stuff kind of becomes cheesy, because like I always thought 90s country was kind of cheesy, but if you start pinpointing certain songs, you're like, no, 90s country might be the best country. It's just when people figured out the formulas and just repeated it enough and over and over, it started to get cheesy. And that's no different than any genre, really. I mean, there's a reason everyone knows who Motley Crue is and nobody knows who Kix is, or something like that. You know, so it's like, because once you start duplicating the thing over and over again, it starts to lose its originality. And that's not to say that, like you said, there's going to be a point in time, maybe 10, 15 years from now, where somebody's going to be like, you remember that bro country song? It's like, yeah, that song was awesome, and
that was a banger.
It's going to, or whatever. They're not going to say it slaps, in 2035 or whatever the year is. So, I don't know. I think about music that way too. It's all preference though. There's music I prefer to listen to, music I don't prefer to listen to. But like country was basically just playing music with Jesse. Like for me, I never really listened to a whole lot of it. And what I did, it was just kind of like, I understand it's here, but it's like, it wasn't made for me. And it wasn't until I started playing some of the music that I was like, oh, some of these songs are actually kind of fun, like, and I found ones that I prefer more than other ones. It's, I like the ones where they tell a story of something that's happening,
Yeah, I agree. I've always been a big lyric guy. Like the ones that like the lyrics are just, oh, this is so generic. Like those are the ones that I just kind of throw to the side. The rhythm's fine, the melody, I get it, but the storytelling songs is really what connects with me.
Yeah, and that's honestly like a problem I have, and I kind of try and tell it with people that were like, if I don't have any connection to the words, like I just kind of hear phoneticizing and notes, and I don't really hear the words anymore.
I'm the same way.
And that's where you see those commercials where people are like miss-singing Rocket Man or whatever. I don't remember what the commercials were, but people are just miss-singing songs, and it's just like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, like, me and Jesse, we're playing a show somewhere, and we're like out on a break, and he's like, I think you're singing this lyric wrong. And I was like, what? And it's a song that he put out like 2 years ago, and it's an original song of his. I've been singing the backup lyric wrong the whole time.
Oh, you know how many times I've done that in like the cover bands I've been in? Like I'll sing a song for 6 months wrong, and then I'll listen to it random in the truck, because like you get in a routine of playing songs, you don't listen to them all the time. Then I'll listen to it 6 months later, I'm like, wow, that's wrong. Like I've been singing that wrong the whole time, and no one said anything, so it must have sounded okay.
Yeah. And again, that's where like sometimes it's just like, well, I'm not sure if I know the exact words that he's saying, and I haven't looked them up, so I'm just gonna phoneticize the vowels, and we'll just go with that. And It's nice.
I'm
It's
assuming
whatever.
it's a harmony vocal anyways. So
Yeah,
just sing the right note. You'll be all right.
Yeah, or just a straight backing vocal,
Yeah.
like right behind his. And it's like, yeah, I'll just, you get it, But again, that's like, you got to have lyrics that connect with you. And for some reason, I think the story songs, or like it's painting you a picture of like, this is the scenario and this, this is what happened to make this scenario and this is the outcome. It's like those are the, like a recipe song kind of, and as opposed to just a song that's just like a hook and then nonsense or something. But that's me saying this having only written like 2 songs in my life. So take it with a grain of salt. That's the best part about music is it's up to everybody to decide what they like. But so you mentioned you were playing in cover bands. How did you start going out playing solo shows, going playing cover bands? Were they all in Fort Dodge or?
Yeah, mostly in this area.
Right.
Especially when I first got my start, I probably played at 2 or 3 places. I was only playing for maybe a year before Tim Salter found me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny to think back. So I was playing a solo show at Shiny Top, and like the stage behind you, all of a sudden this van is driving on the sidewalk in Tim Salter fashion, pulls out, and he's just there. Him and Scott are pulling in all their stuff all around me. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I'm singing, I forget what song I was singing, but all of a sudden there's this old guy, I call him old, just standing like 2 feet from the stage, just staring at me while I'm singing. And he stood there for probably 3 minutes. And then after, came up and talked to me about, because Scott had decided he was leaving at that time. And I knew nothing about Salty View. I'd never met Scott or Tim at that time. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, I got an opportunity for you. I'd love to talk to you more. I think a couple months later, sang with him in his studio and decided to join Salty View at that time.
Yeah.
So that's how that got started.
Yeah.
And that eventually we decided to create kind of a 5-piece band version of that, called it Renegade Soul. We did the show with you and Jesse.
There you go.
For Josh Turner. Yep. You guys were before us, and then we were next, and then Josh Turner. That was a great show. I loved that. That was awesome.
That was amazing. Yeah. Easily one of my one of my fonder moments.
Yeah,
for sure. Everyone was into it, and you guys had the awesome part where you played a little bit when it was light and a little bit when it was dark.
Yeah, we had some cool pictures from that. Just like kind of that golden hour into the darkness too. Yeah. It was a good time. And like from the start, like from when you guys first started playing, it was packed in there. It seemed like people just started coming in. That was the coolest country jam that I saw so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't go to the one this year, but I've been to every one besides this year. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember starting to play, and it's like I can see the street, when I'm playing, and then by the time we were done, you couldn't see the street anymore.
Anything,
and it's
it was just a sea.
All right,
yeah.
There's
as far as a crowd goes, I don't know if there was better energy than that night. Salty View, we opened up for Bailey Zimmerman in Humboldt at the Dragway when all of a sudden they got Bailey Zimmerman out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Before he blew up. And that was a good crowd too, but wasn't, I don't think, on top of us as Josh Turner felt. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was just really cool.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I mean, it's awesome to be able to play those gigs. We're gonna like go back to, I remember you were talking about, Scott and Tim like pulling all their gear in. That like when Salty View, when you played with Salty View, I've seen you actually play with Salty View a couple times, and like also Renegade Soul. But it's funny because like the production with Salty View is like a big deal.
It's a big deal. So, I did not come from that. I'd like my solo stuff. I didn't even have a stand for my speaker when I first started. I'm like, okay, I'll just throw it on the floor there and people can hear me. Mm-hmm. And then get to Salty View and it's just like, okay, now I got to figure out how to put all these lights together. I'm like, I don't know a damn thing about lights. So like the production side was a huge learning curve for me. It's always a show when you come to a Salty View or Renegade Soul show.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why they're there sometimes a day early pulling all their gear in. It's like, well, it's easier to have it all here, and then when you show up the next day to set it up, you just set it up. And so
then it's, depending on the venue, it's either a couple hours after putting it all away or coming in 2 days later and grabbing it. So it's a lot of stuff. There was that factor of it that was just a lot. It was time consuming at times, but it was a good show. I mean, I enjoyed my time in both Salty View and Renegade, and but now I'm just doing the doing the solo stuff, trying to push my original stuff the best I can. Got a little one at home now. He's 1. So that kind of pushed me into like, as far as like, where am I going to put my time? Music goes.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, it was really hard to put out a full album of songs, which will be like later this year. I'm hoping late December, and then not play them. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to play 50 cover band shows and then have no time for that original music.
Bingo.
I just feel like I'm at a point in my life where I got to make that push for that stuff. And it was just time to do something different, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, plus if you have a kid, it's like, well, now I need to prioritize things a little bit differently too, you know, and that squeezes your time even tighter, you know, instead of playing those cover band shows and doing, I mean, there's cover band shows that quote unquote don't do many shows in the Fort Dodge area, and it's still like you're doing 20 plus shows a year. And it's like, all right, so you're doing 2 a month still, and you're not doing many. That's a lot of shows, you know. So, you know, every other weekend you're busy, basically. You know,
exactly.
If you're not doing much, and if you're doing a lot, it's basically every weekend.
Think of the time periods of being a musician. Your summertime, you're just stacked. Like especially if you're making any ground as far as getting gigs around the area, you're booking out if you're busy. So yeah, summertime was just like that. I remember a couple summers ago, I did 2-3 weeks in a row of playing 4 to 5 shows a week. Like, I mean, it's great when you can pull that off, but it gets to be a grind at times. Yeah. And then I need to take a step back. I'm just like, all right, I got to prioritize. I'm doing too many things. I'm still working full time. Like I had to take a step back.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So full time, cover bands, playing music, you're writing your own music too. Possibly playing a few solo shows here and there. How do you find time for all this stuff? To like, I can understand all the rest of it, balancing life, but how do you find time to like, while you're doing all that, to like, I'm going to write my own music? Because you put out a few singles within the last, you know, since 2023, or did you put one out in 2022 or so?
My first one was October of last year. So it's been,
so you got
in the last year,
4 or 5 out now?
Yeah, I got 5 out now. Yeah. And then I'll have 9, probably by the end of December.
Yeah. So. Is that going to be the album, or do you have like more other than those?
I have those 5 will be on the album.
Okay.
So that's just, I'll have like 4 extra featured. So I just thought I'd put them all in one place and call it an album if I have enough.
Why not? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But as far as writing goes, it's so sporadic for me. Like some of the songs in my album I wrote in 20 minutes. Some I brought in multiple people because I could not figure out what the hell to do. There's some where I wrote, like my newest single back in the day, I had a verse and a chorus done, and I just like writer's block and had nothing else. So then I sat down with Alyssa Albee, who I used to be in Salty View with, and then her sister Emily was there as well. So they both helped me finish that one off, and I'm very fortunate for that. Alyssa and I wrote another one that'll be on the album. So I've only co-wrote with those 2, and then the rest I wrote myself. So but so it's crazy. Like I have a song that I wrote it'll be the end song of the album, or the kind of closing track, called Time Goes Fast, about my son. Wrote it in 20 minutes. It was just like came to me. It's like it was implanted in my head, and it just came out.
That's wild.
It's weird. I mean, I don't have like a process to it. Like a lot of times I think of maybe a few chords to throw together, and then the lyrics just kind of come out. I'll have an idea of what I want a song to be, but as far as like the process, I don't really have a process. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, I've never really been very good at it. I mean, like a lot of the files that are just like kind of on the desktops here are just like songs I started and never finished, and I just like
have a bunch of those too.
Have them named really dumb things, and I've just left them there, and they've probably been there for years, you know, at this point. But
tips I got from other songwriters is just to write everything you can. Like even if you think, oh, this is crap or whatever, just finish it and write it. Or if you have a bunch of half songs, like just continue to write it, and then keep those half songs, get somebody together, finish them, or whatever it is. So I probably have 15 plus half songs in my phone of random thoughts I've written down, or random like doodles I've done on guitar and match some lyrics to it. But
have you ever mushed a couple half songs together?
I have not yet. That's a good idea. Maybe I should try that.
Yeah, Taylor Smith was on like a handful of episodes back, and And that was what he was talking. I think he called them like Frankenstein songs, where it's just like
That's a great point to that.
well, he'll write enough, and he'll be like, these parts are, they're in the same key, or it'll match up. If I put them, I might as well just put them together, or slice them apart and stick them together and see what happens. And that's. I think Jeremy Ober told me to do that with a couple of the things I have on here, because sometimes it's just like I have this riff and it sounds neat, and I have this other riff and it sounds neat, and they're in the same key, and I don't know how to like put them together to make a fluid something, you know. And he's like, "Well, just smush them together and see what happens." And
might as well try it.
Yeah,
and then
it's worth a try.
You never know.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing is like when you have the inspiration of some sort to actually like get it down somewhere, because have you ever been there and you're like, oh man, you're like driving somewhere like this would be kind of a neat something
all the time,
and then you're just like, well, I'll remember it when I get home, and then you get home and you put the groceries away or whatever the heck, and it's just like you don't even remember that you had the idea, or
it's gone,
or you try to think and you're just like, okay, how did that song? It went, never gonna give you up. No, that wasn't how it went. Like I just rickrolled everybody. So, but reference from 10 plus years ago. But no, it's it's one of those things where like I never remember to do that. And there's so many times where I'm driving where I'm like, this sounds kind of neat, but the podcast I'm listening to is pretty funny. So I'm just gonna keep listening to the podcast and not actually like hum it into my phone. Yeah. But there's a few scenarios of that. I remember there was like an SNL skit with what was it, like Dave and John Tesh, where it's like they played like the NBA theme song. Anyways, whatever. I'm going off on a tangent here. So you're playing solo shows now, or I think I saw on your Facebook recently. Where were you at? And it was the Clear Lake show was just like packed, like wall to wall, and then you like panned outside. It's like it's full outside too.
Yeah, it was a street fair. I forget what was going on in Clear Lake. Something in Clear Lake, but it was pretty much an all-day event. I played from 3 to 7, which was the busiest time. Like I couldn't even go to the bathroom. Oh gosh, played for 4 hours straight. I had to pull my in-ears out of my case and put them in because I'm like, I could not hear myself. But yeah, it was fun. Sometimes, especially by yourself, those shows can be a lot, but if you get people listening, they're a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's where it helps to have like another musician there.
Yeah. Yeah. If I would have had one other person with me, that would have been a lot better, but it still went fine. People liked it, so that's all that matters, I guess.
Speaking of other people with you, did I see a video recently of you playing with a drummer? Or
what was that about? Jake Rosso and I from Section 7 did a little like 2-man thing out at Rails.
Yeah, that's where it was at.
Just myself, an acoustic, and a drum set, and it worked.
Yeah.
I got some people interested in like some full band stuff for my stuff. So Jake's gonna come on with me and play drums. So he played drums on all my album and everything too.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, we're gonna try to do some more of that. It went over well. And like, have you heard of Jordan Beam at all? Like I'm not trying to copy the guy, but I saw like he's having a lot of success, just him and a drummer. And I'm like, hey Jake, you want to try that? Like just see how it goes. And yeah, we had a lot of fun. So hopefully we can get some more of those.
That's what like Clint Riedel did for a long time.
Yeah.
And Eli Netz, I believe.
Yep.
So like it's a thing. It does work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just you can't play everything, just those two, but if you want to have a little bit of a party, it works.
Yeah.
But then I do some duo stuff with fiddle player that was with me in Salty View and Renegade Soul, Claudia Coltrane.
Okay, yeah.
Her and I have been doing some duo stuff too since last fall and getting some pretty good gig opportunities with that too. So, and that works, just acoustic and a fiddle, or she'll pick up her acoustic too. She sang all the harmonies and stuff on my album too, so she'll be joining me in if I get some full band stuff in the works and everything. So
that's super cool. Oh man, that's awesome. That's the other thing I think is super fun about like, it's just like, do you know this person because they play in that band? Do you know this person and everyone around here shares all the musicians with every other band, it seems like. Or it's just like, do you have some free time? Can you come over? Or like you said, you bouncing ideas off each other for songwriting and things like that. And the networking up in this area is absolutely amazing. Even so much so to the fact where like, I'm not going to say that like there's a lot of singer-songwriters in Fort Dodge that are similar. There's a lot of country influence with a lot of people, but it's just kind of the nature of the Midwest.
Yeah.
But like there's venues that prefer that kind of music, and everyone kind of has the same, oh, there goes my background, whatever. Everyone kind of has the same like venue loop too. It's kind of fun that everyone is kind of like, again, there's enough slices of the pie for everyone to go around, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that networking has something to do with it.
Yeah. And I love that everybody kind of can fill in for each other too. So that builds that community around town. It's like it doesn't seem like everyone's competing with each other. Yeah, there's competition out there. Everybody wants to get some big gigs and things like that. But it's just more supportive than that, than competitive, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like you play with Dave Schmieder.
Yes.
And like he helped me out on my album too. He was more than willing. Yeah. That dude is incredible.
Yeah.
He had maybe listened to my songs once before, and we had him like half done, and he comes in, just crushes the pedal steel, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Told you, Dave. He was on last week's episode. I recorded an episode with him, so that'll be the episode right before yours.
He's awesome. He completely rounded out every song, made him sound exactly like I wanted to. I'm like, I'm really glad that Vino found this guy.
I told him the same thing and he's just like, I don't know about that. Like, you did the same thing with
so
Jesse.
humble about it too.
It's well, again, Dave Schmieder, one of the best guys ever.
Shout out Dave.
Yes. Oh gosh, it's so fun too, because like we'll play shows where like Dave will just like, oh, what are we doing? We're doing this, and he'll just get on the microphone and just be like, all right, everybody, you want more Jesse Wilson? Woo! All right, well, we're gonna take a short break and we'll be back, and we're gonna play a bonus hour for everyone, and they go nuts. And he's just like, so don't go anywhere. And it's like, Dave, you're like, what are you, an MC now? He's like, what can't you do? It's super fun watching him like play the pedal steel, and then he like gets an electric out from behind his back, like he's had it in his back pocket the whole time,
and just rips it.
Starts too. Told you, Dave.
Yeah.
You're a legend. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, it's so fun having all those people around that are, willing to play as much music as they are. Cause I mean, we mentioned it earlier, if you want to play 20 plus shows a year, it's not terribly hard, with around this area to find the people, and sometimes the best place to find those people is at jam nights. You know?
Yeah.
And I remember, I think you were in a house band on one of the jams I couldn't go to very recently. It was,
a couple weeks ago, or the October one, I was in that one. Then I did one in the spring before. So I've been in a couple of those.
Yep.
The Eagles hideout, those are a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's super fun going to those. I was talking to them recently how they're like, those are kind of like it's not like high stakes, but there's like, I mean, again, the local legends show up, and I'm not trying to say that to be like weird about it, but like there's a lot of people that are really looked up to that show up to those jam nights.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in that room, that's for sure.
And Jeremy does a good job of mixing everyone together. So you could be like playing with like Iowa Rock and Roll Hall of Fame drummer with like a kid who's been playing for 3 years,
exactly.
on lead guitar. And it's like,
well, and that's like when Jeremy texted me about playing the house band, I'm like, it's kind of an honor to do that. I'm like, oh man, yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to pass that up. Like it's just to be able to play with some of those guys. Like the first jam night I played with Chris Carr. That was the first time I ever played with him, and I'm like, and he knew nothing of the song because I just had my acoustic and I was kind of singing lead, and would just start a song. He's like, yep, I got it, and then just had no idea what the song was, but made it sound amazing.
Yeah, he's another one that's like super good at that.
Yeah,
he used to show up to the Barnum jams every now and then. It was just like Chris Carr sneak attack. All of a sudden, it was like, "Where'd you come from?" And he just
everybody sit down.
Brings in some gear, and it's like
compete with this guy.
Yeah, it's and that's the thing. It's just like, well, we got to give him some time up here and let him shred a little bit if he's going to show up. You know? And there's another person that a lot of people in the community look up to, and he gave back to the music community by having a music store that he independently ran for so long.
Yeah,
and that's again just giving back to the community and having that available to him was such a great gift. Which like Jeremy Ober gave lessons out of there forever. So and that's how many people is he given lessons to and inspired, etc. So there's a lot of cool history like with those people that like again show up to that third Thursday jam night.
Yeah.
And did you ever make it over to any Barnum jams?
I did like very early. I think I might have still been in college. The only one I did. Because it was on Tuesdays, wasn't it? And I never made it out on a Tuesday. And especially when I first started teaching, like I didn't go out much during the week because I had priorities in the morning with kids in my room and stuff like that. So yeah, I never made it out to a Barnum one, and they're done now, aren't they? They kind of moved out to Byron's, or that's kind of the only one in that area that's doing that.
Yep. So that's like first Thursday, I think, at Byron's, which is as of we're recording this, it's today. So maybe we'll swing out there and we'll see what's going on. I mean, that's another one it's kind of like the Barnum Jam. It's a little bit of a free for all. You just kind of show up with whatever instrument, and if you can play it and it fits in, go for it. Like, man, there's some wild stuff. I remember showing up to the Barnum Jams, like a wash tub bass. Like, that was a real cool one. I'm trying to think. There was another one, like a handful of fiddles and things like that, or like people are just like really good at harmonica, and it's like you brought your own amp, and it's just like it's like this guy's good at harmonica.
Your own amp for harmonica.
Yes.
That's pretty serious.
Yes, and guess what? They're good.
And it does not surprise me for Barnum, Iowa, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and that was another wild one where, like, I think it was because Clint was on the podcast so much and we talked about it so much that it kind of got throughout, romanticized a little bit by people that listened to the podcast, and there were people that would show up from like Des Moines semi-regularly to play.
Oh, really?
And like there was a couple people that came from like southeastern Iowa to the jam, and usually like it's one of those things, if they show up and they're like, if it's like, holy cow, where'd you come from? It's like, I'm not from around here. I heard about it and I came up just to play. And it's just like, all right, hold on a sec. We need to like get your information and give your information to a venue owner around here somewhere and make it worth your while, and they usually end up booking shows out of it, because it's like, you got to see this. Like, so
that's another, just like you said, network building and community creating events that they do work and people like them. So
might as well.
Keep them going, keep them rolling.
Absolutely. So have you recorded all, we're going to go back to your album here. Have you recorded all the songs for your album already and you're just slowly releasing them?
Yes.
Okay.
So a couple of them are still getting mixed up as far as like final mixes go. And then we're sending them off to a guy named Ted Jensen out of Sterling Sound down in Nashville. Okay. He's doing all the mastering for that. His discography is crazy. Vino sends Jeremy's stuff to him as well, like for Brutal Republic. He does an incredible job with that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we got to get the rest sent off, and then hopefully in time before my goal is before the new year, but if we have to push back a little bit, that's fine too.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things, like when you record it all ahead of time, if you don't want to, like, let me ask you this, why'd you go singles versus just a whole album? Why didn't you just wait and do the whole album? Or is that like, I mean, I'm sure by now everyone kind of feels that era is bygone.
So when I did my first couple singles, I didn't even have the rest of my album written. I just kind of wrote a few and wanted to release something out. I did some acoustic stuff. My third song was just myself, acoustic, and then Claudia on the fiddle. And then I'm like, okay, I got some songs that could work as full band, recorded 5 or 6 full band type songs. And then I'm like, okay, I guess I could have an album out of that.
Yeah.
But so I didn't really have a thought process to that. I probably should have, but I didn't know I was going to do an album. And then I actually have I signed up with a management company out of Nashville called Indie Roadmap. So the guy that I'm working with recommended. That's kind of how the country world is going, to release a couple singles and then drop a full album. So I'm just kind of trying to follow their plan as far as getting stuff out there.
Yeah. I think it's, well, I'm a little bit older than you, whatever, 10 years older than you, but still, like, when I was growing up, it was like the singles were still a thing, and singles have kind of like always been a thing. They release a song, slightly before the album comes out to pique the interest or whatever, or a couple songs, or like whatever. They pick songs on the album to feature after the album came out to whatever. Yeah. So like, but like it used to be easier, with records, people just get the little 45s, boom, here's a single, and people bought them and listened to them, whatever. But like when I was growing up, they had like cassette and CD singles. Like when I was really young, they had cassette singles, but when I was older, they had like CD singles. Like, and it was a thing where it's like a CD single is literally a huge whole CD, and you flip it over to the back and see what's like burned onto it, and it's like this much of it's burned, and it's just like 2 songs, and that's it. And you're like, what's the point?
With the digital world nowadays with streaming, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's so
like
easy.
It's insane how much of that has changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember last time I bought a CD, or vinyl's kind of coming back. I got a record player at home, so now I want to buy all the vinyl.
Yeah, there's a box over there. Well, there's a stack over there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone's got some vinyl.
It's just You have to. If you're a big music guy, I feel like you have to have some vinyl just laying around, whether you play it or not. Just they're cool collectibles too.
Yeah. I mean, the punk band I was in, we had vinyl, and
Really?
believe it or not, sold out of them.
Yeah, people like them.
Yeah, oddly enough, we sold a lot of CDs though too.
Yeah.
Like we sold at least twice as many CDs as vinyls, which is, I don't know if people are still listening to CDs. Do cars even come with CD players, or is that like an
That's
option?
a great question.
You have to
I don't
ask
buy
for it?
new enough cars to know. So
My car has one for sure. Let me say that. I just went and got mine fixed. Thank you very much. I will drive that thing until it's in the ground. I'm driving
Yeah.
a Toyota, ladies and gentlemen. So
I'll be buried in that car.
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, that'll save me all the money I'll save. I'm still not going to spend it on a coffin to be buried. I'll be buried in the car that helped me save all the money. No, that's a little dark. I apologize, everybody. But yeah, so you recorded like all the singles. You're kind of dripping them out. Are you going to do it with all of them, and then when it's all done, put the album out? Or are you going to like be like, okay, here's all the singles, but I do have a bunch more, and that's why you should buy the album.
Yeah.
There's
So
extras on there.
I'm done with releasing singles. So the next thing you hear will be the rest of that album.
Nice. Perfect. So you're not going to like let the entire cat out of the bag.
No.
Yeah. So there's still going to be a reason to go listen to the album,
Yeah,
or if you put
exactly.
the album out, there's a reason to, buy it if, people had bought the original songs, so that's really cool. I feel like marketing music now is like, it's kind of weird. It's not the same as it used to be. And I understand like music's also like, what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to, do the whole like, it's like, we'll use the Salty View argument. They're marketing by this presence on stage. It's like, do you want to bring, giant lighting trusses and huge speakers and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you don't have to, but it looks nice when you do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it looks nice.
yeah. So again, it's like, well, are you going to make physical copies of your album?
I mean, I haven't thought of that, but it'd be cool to at least have something. I think I want to for sure do vinyl. It's just, I don't know the process yet. So Alex Trevino produced my whole album. He played half the instruments on it. That dude's incredible. So I know him and Jeff did vinyl for Stadium Drive. So
Yeah, they'll have you covered.
I might talk to them to see what connections they have to get some vinyl in place. But
Yeah, I know of a few places to go through, because like Three Finger Betty did a vinyl, and I'm going to admit that I did none of the research on it because it's hard to find stuff that you think is viable. But it turns out the company we went through is actually very justifiable company. Other people I know, believe it or not, like I've gotten other vinyls where it's like the same company pressed this thing. So so there are a few out there that work. I also know like just like off the cheap and easy, it's not necessarily cheap, but it's like the easiest one would just be like CD Baby. People go there to make CDs. They also make vinyls. It's not necessarily cheap. You got to buy a bunch, whatever. But
so there's plenty of options out there at least. So.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to make a vinyl, you definitely can, and people,
This is not an ad, but you can.
People will buy them. Yeah. Don't go to CD Baby. There's better places out there. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I've done CDs through them. It works out real easy.
Nice.
It's pretty slick. So, not that it's the be all end all of where to go, but so Vino, let's kind of talk about Vino a little bit. So like, how'd you run into Vino and kind of get tied into?
So that's where Renegade Soul came in. Tim brought him on at bass. Did not think that he was going to have anything in his schedule to, like right away when he said that, I'm like, this guy's not going to be able to play with us because he plays in however many bands. Got him committed on, did a few shows with him. Him and I connected really well. Pretty good friends now. And yeah, I played him some of my original stuff. He really digged it. And he's like, he just liked it enough to want to take the time to do that. I mean, it's such a time consuming process. And I tell him that all the time, like, man, I appreciate all the work that you're doing just because I don't know how the hell to do that stuff. I mean, I can perform it, but as far as like the producing side goes, he doesn't have like crazy equipment. Like he has some quality microphones and some good like Pro Tools and so like he has quality stuff. That's why we're able to do it. But it's not like we have this insane studio.
Yeah, it's not like Nashville studio.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like we made it sound pretty close. Honestly, like it worked out. But
it honestly doesn't take super expensive stuff.
Just quality stuff. You need some. If you have quality microphones, you can do so much.
Yeah.
Like so much with that.
A lot of that is also like if you start dabbling in the sound engineering world, there's a lot of like people turn their nose up at certain things. It's no different than guitars. It's like,
Yeah.
you got your Fender guys versus your Gibson guys. You know, you got your,
Yeah.
tube screamers versus blues driver guys or whatever. You know, I don't use any pedals. I go direct in the, whatever it is. The sound engineers are the same way. I would never use a Shure SM58 to save my life or whatever. It's like, dude, they sound great.
Yeah, they sound awesome.
Whatever. I don't, then don't use one. Like, I get it though too, because some people it's like, well, I'm looking at like what the measurements are, and these are not as good as the other one. It's like, comes down to what we were talking about with music. Sometimes it's preference, sometimes they want it to sound like this, and it's tougher to get it to sound a certain way. So like, I guess the deeper you get into it, the tougher it might be. But in the general sense, like, not to give it all away, but like the first 200 and some episodes of the podcast were recorded with like $150 worth of gear.
Yeah.
Like,
that's all you need.
You do not need expensive stuff, and I get that it would sound better if I used better things, but like, also for spoken word, you don't really need a whole lot anyways. But yeah, it's really cool to have somebody there like Vino to help you out, that's got a few of the gadgets, like to help you record things or the know how to do it. And like you said, he's helping and he's playing music on it, and he likes your music, and you're a good guy, and he likes you, and you guys get along and stuff, but he's still putting his time into this project that has basically your name on the front, and it's
exactly.
That's one of those things where I've recorded a few songs for people. Most of them have never come out, but the whole deal is like, you have to like realize like this is going to be a selfless act, and it's nice that there's people that are out there willing to do that. There's other people in the community that do things like that where they'll help you record things, or at least record it and send it off to somebody else, do the mixing and mastering or something. And I don't know. It's very selfless, and it's very nice that there's people out there willing to do that, because your name's going to be on the front and his name's going to be really small in the liner notes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's almost a selfish type of feeling, but yeah, I'm very grateful that he was willing to do it, and the talent that dude has is just incredible. Like, one of the guitar solos, like for not this recent single, but the one that came out in September, Move On, he did it in probably 3 takes. Each one was different. Just picked the one that he liked. Yeah. And it was just like, there we go. That's it.
Yeah. It's another one of those ones where it's just like, well, I'll do 3 takes. All 3 takes sound amazing. Yeah. And then you just have to pick one. And it's like, yeah, how am I supposed to, I don't want to have to pick between a ham sandwich and a turkey sandwich, when I like them both, like.
And he was so picky about it. And each one, I'm just like, yeah, that's amazing. He's like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, okay. I thought it sounded great.
It's hilarious. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the best parts about like some of your stuff. Vino plays a lot of really good leads too, to be able to make like a melody that repeats itself well enough to be the familiarity piece throughout the song when you're not the one singing, so it's like, oh wow, yeah, this is the thing that defines this song, other than the lyrics and the melody of the words, because every song kind of has to have that like guitar riff hook or whatever to it. And so I was like, on my lunch break today, I was listening to your singles on Spotify, and I just like looped them and just listened through them while I was eating my sandwich, and I was like, this I can hear the influence of like that coming in there. I'm like, oh, this is what makes this a song instead of just like earlier in the episode you were talking about like, well, sometimes I just write like 3 chord stuff, and it's like, yeah, but that's still a song.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you still have your hooks and the way you describe things, and there's a lot that go into songs, but it's I've really started to enjoy the process, and now that I've done some recordings, it's like, I'm not even done with this album. I'm ready to sit down and do another one. It's a lot of time, so I probably have to go to somebody else besides Vino if I want to do that right away. But yeah, hopefully we're all ready for that. But we'll see.
Oh, it's so fun. I also think like playing in the studio is a completely different beast than playing live. Like playing
oh my
live,
gosh,
you can get away with kind of goofing off live.
The first time I did anything in the studio, like I don't get that nervous playing live anymore, just because I do it often, depending on the show. But like, I was just like nervous to play because I was so isolated. And then when you mess up, you got to start over, and I'm just doing like acoustic chords to start. I'm like, why am I nervous right now?
Dude, it's tough.
It's so weird. It's so different. People don't understand. And then you start playing to a click or things like that. And I never played to a click before. And that's the first time I was in the studio. So that was a huge adjustment too. So it was a learning process, but couple songs in, I feel like I figured it out.
Yeah, that's definitely something different playing to a click. There's people that like will not play to a click, and there's people that are just like, yeah, this has to be to a click or whatever, and I understand the process behind both, but it's definitely a different beast. And like you said, playing studio stuff where it's just like I'm isolated, all my stuff is being like absolutely it's recorded, it's almost like everything's magnified.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's all the errors are magnified. It's like, oh, I made a tiny error here, start over. And there's no sense in keeping it going, unless you're going to do the whole like plug something in and piece it together kind of game.
Well, especially when you're doing it yourself, you don't have the time to sit there and like really engineer and pull things out. Like I'd rather just do another take if I messed up rather than cutting everything up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always get nervous playing in the studio. 100%, just like you said, I just like, I clam up. I don't ever come up with my best ideas.
Yeah.
Everything I play frustrates me. It's like the exact opposite feeling I have playing in a studio than I do live.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so I'm the same way.
Like when I'm playing live, it's almost like I can make mistakes and kind of goof around, and I'm still having a good time.
Yeah.
But in the studio, I just want to like, throw my guitar out the window or whatever. It's bad.
The perfectionism comes out in the studio for sure. And it's very easy to get frustrated.
Yeah, it's fun also running into people who are like, because I know a few. There's some in the Fort Dodge area that are like, I don't want to say like from the onset, they're studio musicians and they don't play as well live as they do in the studio, which is one of those fun things where it's like, oh, this person's like wicked good by themselves. And then when you start putting them in with other people, it's like, oh, we're doing this now. And because like when you play more at jams and things like that, you just kind of free flow. It's like the song's going here now and you just have to follow the leader and keep going, where I think that drives some of those studio people that know the parts are chiseled out here, here, and here.
Yeah, it's a total different way of thinking. Like that's why I've enjoyed those jam nights, just because I feel like that's opened me up more as a musician and forced me to become better, because it's like, all right, now you're live, you got to figure it out. You can't just stand there.
Yeah. Oh, also like the communication it actually takes to like pull that off. Some of it's just like head nods, or you can kind of feel where the song's going, but sometimes you have to turn around and actually like look at people. You know?
And truly watch like where they're at on their guitar or their bass and figure it out that way. Like if you're completely lost, you got to lock in on somebody and figure it out. So
we're like, oh, we're gonna go back through and do the chorus again here or whatever. You've played with somebody long enough where you're like, I feel like the solo's wrapping up here. Let's see what happens. And we're just switching. All right, here we go. Or the solo guy who's soloing looks up and gives you the nod, and you're like, all right, cool.
Or you just come in and start singing and completely cut off the guitar solo. I've done that a couple times.
I love it. Oh, that's super fun. It's like, hey, the solo is over.
Yeah, it's my time now. I'm just kidding.
No, that's one of those things playing live. It's sometimes a mistake and it's sometimes funny. Like I've done it with Jesse a lot, where it's like I feel like I'm going to keep going and I've got my eyes closed and I'm super into it, and he starts singing. I'm just like, boo doo boo boo, and he's like, all right, cool, just putter out this solo really quick, and
I'll just turn my guitar off. It's fine.
Just put it back in the corner here. Thank God this wasn't in a studio. No, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, playing solo shows is got to be difficult too, because it's one of those things. I'm sure you can get away with like a little bit of hiding stuff if you're singing and playing. Like sometimes the words don't have to be perfect because the playing can cover it up. Sometimes the playing doesn't have to be perfect because the words can cover it up, word center or whatever. But you're still out there on an island all by yourself in front of everybody. Two things are making noise,
Yeah, that's it. And you got to entertain. See, I truly love playing solo shows more than like full band stuff is really fun. I enjoy it a lot, but solo shows are probably my favorite, just because it forces me to really like hone in on songs and figure them out. And then it gives me the chance to completely read a crowd or read a room or whatever it is, and then connect that way. So I that's how I got my start with solo shows, and with the times that I'm able to do that, I've always enjoyed those solo ones. It's difficult at times, like that tap show that we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
That's where it becomes difficult. It's like, okay, I have a full bar and an acoustic guitar. That's it. Like I have nothing to keep a beat, nothing like that. So like you really have to think outside the box. Like, what the hell are people gonna connect with on this? And then you just try a couple. It's like solo, some venues, solo's the time where I can play some real ballads, I can play some softer stuff, some more songwriting things. But if you're in an environment like that,
gotta bring the heat.
And you play a super slow Whiskey Lullaby Brad Paisley song, like it's not going to go over well.
Yeah, it does not always keep the room moving.
Yeah. And I've turned kind of into like a request guy. Like I'll try whatever request.
Cool.
It's crazy the amount of requests you get. That's just like, how do you expect me to play something like that? Like,
yeah.
Do you not see what I'm playing?
Yeah, it's super funny. We'll do that with like Jesse sometimes where like, and this is going to sound really, really crazy. Like we were playing a show somewhere and Jesse does the same thing you do. It's just like, I'm opening up the request line. Let's see what happens. And people come up, they drop some money in the tip juk, like play this song. And somebody was just like, I bet you can't play Creed or whatever. And it was just like, I looked at Jesse, I was like, I bet we can play some Creed, you know,
we'll figure it out.
And he was just like, boop, 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 boop. We're playing this song. And I was like, all right, we ended up playing some Creed for somebody. It's like you said, sometimes you're just like, what do you expect us to do with this? And it's like, wait a second, I bet we can do this. Let's try it and see what happens. And it's fun when you get requests. You never know. Sometimes you end up with a song where you're like, I'm gonna dog ear that and put that in the next set or something. You'll practice it a little bit. And
no, that's happened all the time. It's like, oh, I've never done that one before, but I'm adding that in.
Yep.
And I'm the guy that if someone yells Freebird, I just start playing it. Like by myself, I'll just start singing it immediately and then pick up the chord. So I'll play like a verse and I'll be like, okay, we're done.
Yeah. All right.
That's what you get. You owe me $100.
We did it. Now you owe me 100. It's like one of those things at tourist places, the tourist trap. It's like, here, check out my CD. And it's like, now you owe me $10.
Yeah.
You got my CD, buddy. Like
I've had people I no joke had somebody ask for their money back because I didn't play the specific request. I played the same artist. And I said on the mic, I'm like, hey, sorry, I didn't know that one. I'll trade you for this one. And he came up and asked if he can get the 20 back. I'm like, no. I don't know how to answer this. Like, I'm going to say no.
Yeah. How do I know? No, I don't know. How do you know exactly what they put in there? Sometimes I'm not even looking at the tip jar, but at the same time, it's just like, I think we had one of those recently where it's just like the guy wanted something and we didn't know it. And it was just like, yeah, whatever, just take it back out.
Yeah.
Just,
well, and alcohol was involved. So that's part of it too.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the other fun thing to traverse when you go to playing live shows, like the bar scene. Like, I was talking with Dave Schmieder on the last episode, how like when he came out to play shows, he was trying his best to like, you know, he's going to hand pick what shows he wanted to play. So he didn't want to like get too deep into the bar scene, you know, and play those shows. Cause it's just like, then you're playing until 2 a.m. and sometimes people are kind of rowdy and you don't really want to deal with it. And I 100% understand it, but like, you know, it's fun when you go to those shows and sometimes there's some fun stuff that goes on.
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
You know? Like
you make some memories sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my gosh. For sure.
There's some that I'm like, I don't need to play that one again, but I enjoy the majority of them. I'm not a huge fan of the late nights anymore. Now I'm becoming a father and everything. It's just my kid's going to be up at 6. So if I go to bed at 2:30 in the morning, I'm up at 6.
Yeah.
So
on occasion, you're lucky to get there at 2:30.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, I'm thinking about those Clear Lake shows. If you play the extra hour, you know, sometimes there or whatever, it's like, well, okay, I'm getting home at. Maybe get home at like 3, you know, something like that. It's like, oh gosh. That's
yeah. So when I booked a 3 to 7 gig, I was like, oh yeah, let's do that because I'm usually 9 to midnight, 9 to 1 there. So
those are the ones that if I ever get on something like that, it's like, well, now I can go out and watch somebody else play music.
Exactly.
You know?
So then I'm still out till 2 in the morning or whatever.
I had thought about a question earlier, and I forgot that I'd thought about it, but now I remembered. So you talk about like playing solo shows. Do you think like being a teacher kind of helped you like? Because I feel like some people are like, I would never get up there in front of people. And I don't know why it's never really bothered me. But do you think like being a teacher kind of like helped you? Like I've been in front of people, albeit they're kids, but you know, you've been in front of people.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? I think because for a job like that, you have to talk all day in front of people. Like think about like from a business standpoint, you have to give, if you have 7 class periods, you have to give 7 presentations. Like you're constantly doing that. So as far as like being in front of people, I think that helped with like nerves, things like that. And then I would always like translate and bring music in to the classroom, things like that.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, that kind of worked hand in hand. But as far as like building my confidence, that really helps the teacher being able to read people, read a room. Yeah. So, there's a lot of tendencies that go into being a musician as well.
That's weird. I now the more I think about it, the more like weirdly there's parallels because like I mean, you're teaching younger-ish kids, so you kind of like you said presentations, but you also have to be entertaining. to some
Yeah,
extent.
exactly.
You can't just be up there and be like,
You
all
can't
right.
be
you know,
monotone. You can't be boring. Like,
if you take one molarity of the NCHCO, it's like, who wants to listen to that all day long,
Yeah.
But, it's, I was thinking about that for some reason, and I don't know. Being up on stage never really like bothered me. I haven't really ever been somewhere where I've been nervous. Even like playing at the Josh Turner show for Downtown Country Jam. I know there was a lot of people there and stuff, but I was still just kind of like, I don't know.
It's just another show. I felt the same way. I'm like, man, there's a lot of people. But when I got out there, I'm like, this is just fun. Like it's more fun than anything. Like I think that's why I don't get nervous for those shows.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was by myself, do it. So if I did that solo, that's different. Like if you're on a big stage and you got your buddies with you, you're playing in a band, that's fun. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, it would be fun solo, but that's where it gets a little nerve wracking. Like you got to entertain 5,000 people now.
Yeah. It took me a long while to like separate bigger shows like that. Cause like bigger shows, it's like, you have to take this seriously. You have to take it very seriously, but at the same time you want to have fun. And there's so many times where I didn't sit back and realized I was enjoying myself until maybe the next day even.
Yeah.
Like where it's just like, I should have just soaked it in a little more, and that show was like, I want to say like maybe one of the first times I was ever out there in front of a big crowd, because I've been in front of a handful here and there, but it's one of the first times I was ever just like having it was all fun the whole time, and it was that was a special show.
Yeah, the adrenaline coming off the stage, I remember, and then I came down, I honestly got like lightheaded about 30 minutes after, just because I was just so amped and so pumped.
Yeah,
and then got off and then realized what just happened, and then I remember having to sit down. I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten all day, only had alcohol, so that didn't help.
Well, we had to do the reverse sound check where they do headliner, middle, opener, and then the opener waits like an hour and then plays, and then they go backwards.
Well, then you guys had a sound check during your set too, and that I remember just being so frustrated watching that, trying to figure it out, and
Well, for those that like don't know, like they had one of my guitar speakers, they had a mic on it, right? And it was on an arm, and the boom arm came loose, and it was like off the side of my amp. And that was what I was just like, something's wrong up here. Like, cause I could, I realized what was going on, and then I was, had to change that at one point in time. But either way, it still works. That's live music, things happen.
You got to figure it out somehow.
That's I think one of my favorite things. Anything can happen in live music, yes, but it's always fun when we get done playing with Jesse, and like the first thing I do is it's just like, let's take the speakers and set them over here. Let's fold up all the stuff and set it over here, and let's unplug all the cables. And now it's just wrap cables, and you just like look around and you're like, I can't believe we got this many cables to plug into that thing to make noise that went through these things to make, wow. Like, it's pretty wild how it all like comes together. I know.
I've even gotten that way solo wise. I'll be on my like sixth cable. I'm like, why do I have all this crap? Like, but it works. I guess just the setup and tear down. I wish it was just like house PA everywhere. You could just come and plug in.
Oh,
how awesome would that be?
Yeah. I feel like there needs to be more places like that, but that's also the reason that there's so much live music in Fort Dodge, and it is the way it is because there's only a couple dedicated places with stages, and it allows for if the musician has their own PA, it allows for a pop-up show basically anywhere.
Exactly.
So that's beautiful.
And it's always good to have as a musician, if you want to play all the time, it's like you got to get your own setup. Yeah. And then buy quality, don't buy crappy, in my opinion. Like if you can afford it, like buy some quality stuff that'll last a while. You can make a really good sounding show if you have quality equipment. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like the stair step process isn't a terrible approach either, where it's like you buy your first instrument's like mid-level instrument. It's just like, well, maybe we'll buy like a cheap PA just to make some noise. And then you go out with the cheap PA and make a little money. It's like, we'll take this money and now buy a better PA. Like, so you can work your way up, but I will 100% agree. Like, I've got a couple cheap speakers over there, and they're over there not getting used because that's what they are. When you put them next to like an EV or a JBL or whatever, it's like a QSC. It's like it's not.
That's how it's supposed to sound.
Yeah, not like that. We're not even going to say the brand. Everyone knows what brand it is. But oh man, this has been really good. We got about an hour in. Let me double check my notes here. I'm not even going to edit this out. Okay, we talked literally about all of this stuff, so I didn't really even need the notes. That's pretty awesome. So your music is online. You do have a Facebook. Do you have any other social medias out there?
I have Instagram, TikTok.
All right.
I believe there's YouTube of my music. I don't post anything on YouTube. I've never been a YouTube guy, but I feel like I should do that more just because it's like nowadays, and that's where like my management has told me like, hey, you got to stay on social media. You got to be consistent. It's like, I've never been a big social media guy, and now I'm posting like probably 3 times a week, just trying to stay consistent the best I can. It's just, it's hard.
Do you do them on the spot or do you schedule them out?
I'm getting better at scheduling them out. Like there's times where I'll record like 3 cover videos and an original on a Sunday and then be ready to post them. But for a long time I was just like, okay, I got time, I'll do it right now. And then that just gets like sporadic and yeah. So I've been staying consistent with it, but the more consistent I've stayed, like I feel like I've grown somewhat of a following on social media. I think I'm near 3,000 on TikTok now, and I was at 1,400 a year ago. Like it just takes time to start building that stuff, but it's just how the music world has changed so much. It's like now you almost have to have that online following with you. It's not everything, but venues look at that stuff like all the time. It's like I've had people say, well, I want you at X amount of followers if you want to play here. It's like, to me, I don't like that, but I do understand it as far as like getting people to come to the show, and like when they post things, they'll look at your stuff. Like
I get it too.
I get it, but it's frustrating as hell.
It's rough when there's ways around all this. Like, what do you want me to do? Buy followers just to get in here, and then it's not going to do anybody any good. You know? So, it's tough. The social media world is always a tough thing to traverse. You know, that is my job basically now. So it's I do spend a lot of time on social media and YouTube and things like that. So it's something, if anybody's like struggling to do it, just schedule them out. There's just use whatever the Facebook app to schedule it out. You can post on Instagram and Facebook and just schedule stuff out. Once you start, again, I'm sure you found this way, like, you know, once you start creating a little bit of stuff, you're just like, this isn't so hard. It just takes some
really
time.
Not. It's just
and that's the thing that sucks.
Getting yourself to do it. Like that was my biggest thing. It's like I felt like I had no time. It's like, okay, I actually sat on the couch for an hour. Like I could have done something for 15 minutes and got it done. So
yeah, I think about that when I'm like watching a TV show I've already watched, like when I'm watching Seinfeld for the 48th time. This year, do I really need to watch the episode where George does blah blah blah, whatever, the Paisanos pizza episode? Do I really need to watch this again? Shout out to all the real ones out there watching Seinfeld. So I'll sit there and I'll just be like, all right, I have all these pictures for all these podcasts that are coming up or whatever. I'll schedule out all the posts. It'll take me 10 minutes and I'll finally watch George get the eggplant. Whatever. Anyways, that's definitely one of the roughest things I think about this is following people online. But we're going to make this really easy for anybody that's listening to this. If you never heard of Jared, check him out online. All the links are in the descriptions down there, wherever you're watching or listening. I'm going to put them all in there. So it's going to be like one of the first things you'll see. Just click them all, click follow, go see him live somewhere. Again, I've seen you live. Never seen you play a solo show though. So that's next thing on the list for me. I
got more coming up. I usually post my schedule on Facebook and everything. So
nice.
Yeah. So if you want to come see a show, follow me on my social medias. You'll be able to find them.
Awesome. That's where it'll be. Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Taking time out of your day. We just discussed, we're all busy people, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. All right, there you go. There's the episode. It's recorded. It's in the bank. We love it. Jared Benson, thank you very much for taking time out of your day to sit down and talk with us. I hope everybody enjoyed that one. I got links for Jared down below. Be sure to check them out. Future releases, upcoming shows, everything like that. It's going to be on his social media, so be sure to scroll down below into the description section. Check out all of his social medias and give him a follow, give him a like. Let him know that Audible Farm sent you. You can also check out audiblefarm.com. All the Audible Farm goodies are there. We got the shop. We got the Patreon. We got all the social media links. You can listen to the podcast there. You can watch it there. The Patreon, you can watch a day early if you want to do the Patreon. That costs, $1 a month, I think, still, or whatever you want to give. So That is also still available there. I got to say thanks to the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association for helping us out with this episode. Make sure you go check out their podcast, FDT, and go back and listen to all the old podcast episodes Audible Farm had. There's some people out there going back in time listening to all the old episodes, maybe some of the ones they skipped or forgot about, or it's been a while, so they want to re-listen to them. So thank you guys. I've been noticing that. I appreciate it a lot. Audiblefarm.com is where you can find everything you need to know if you don't want to go cruising through 20 different links. So check that out, and I'm out of here, everybody. Peace.